Wonderful. Well, I am here to talk about now. Thank you, I appreciate that. Thank you. Right there. Now. I am an artist, right? And I didn't expect to be an artist, but it works because it is one of the only places where the way that this mind works makes sense. One of the funny things is, as a teenager, which is where many of us who write kind of find our desire for poetry, it is a perfect outlet for teen angst. Especially for when you're crushing on someone and they don't recognize you or know you. And so I had a friend, and of course I used to always be like, hook me up. Homegirl cute, don't you introduce me? And she would be like, no, you think too much. You're way too mental for my friends. And I was like, I feel like there's supposed to be a compliment in there somewhere, but this really isn't helpful right now. And so when you think and get lost in your own mind the way that I do, you hope that you can find a place where it all makes sense. And I found that in art. And so in that, what that provides me is the opportunity to engage with a number of people. One of my most joyous and wonderful things is to do workshops. Now there's an activity that I do when I'm doing workshops that I love to do, and it is called the I Am activity, right? Now, this activity involves a series of questions, 5 questions that I ask, and I tell the participants to only write the answers down to the questions. Now, there's only a few rules to this activity. One is that the answers have to be statements, it can't be a list. 2, they can't answer any question the same way more than once. Okay? They can't answer any question the same way more than once. And 3, they can interpret the questions however they choose. Right? So, what I want you to do is I'm going to tell you what the questions are, and I want you to just take a moment to think about what your answers to these questions might possibly be. Okay? Here's the question. Here's the question. The first question is, what are two people who have influenced you and made you into the person that you are? 2 people. Second question is, what are 2 places that have had a great influence on who you are? 2 places. Third question is, what are 2 things that matter to you? What are 2 things that matter to you? Fourth question is, what are 3 things that you stand for or believe in? The 3 things that you stand for or believe in. And then the last question, which makes this activity, is that it closes with 3 I am statements. And I simply ask the question, who are you? What are those characteristics that people always talk about? Who do you see yourself as? Who are you? You can interpret these questions however you choose to. Those are the 5 questions that I ask in this activity. All right. Just so you can get an example, here's mine. I am Vaughn, Doris, and Bethola's blessing. Product of below the Mason-Dixon line in the south side of the city, shaped by Black exceptionalism, influenced by working class idealism, and raised by a Black woman's resolve. I believe in great speeches, beat drops, and I stand for my date's arrival. Feel like we are the answer we have always needed. Hold true to the fact that we can figure out how to maneuver in any way that we can imagine. See, I am the well-mannered example who wrote His Way Dangerous. Fashionable laborer determined to show you how to work these hats better. I am part moonshine and pearl handle 38. A gallon jug of kerosene daring you to light the match. See, I'm beautiful enough to rebel and smart enough to convince you to accept it. So I call this activity a declaration of self. And what I tell them is that in this activity, one of the things that it does is it says that you get to introduce yourself to me in your own words, in your own verse, in your own voice, and on your own terms. Right? The other thing about this is I say that when this is over, I know who you truly are, so it doesn't matter what anyone else says, what the world says, or however, whatever situation I see you in, I know because you told me exactly who you are. Now, the other part about this, because you might be wondering, what does this have to do with the concept of now? So, here's the other thing about it. The other thing about this is that with this activity, it says, I am this, but I told them that it is a part of a continuum, that it can change and shape over time. The people who influence you may shift as you grow to know more people. The places that influence you may change as you experience more places. The things may change as you interact with more things. What you stand for and believe in may shift, change, or deepen based on your experiences and the things that you're able to kind of come in contact with. And who you are is an ever-evolving process. But you get to say what it is whenever you say it, and when you say it, it is that. And so on this continuum, what it says to me is that in this moment, in this now I am, but because I am, I will be. And that is the power in that activity. And that's why this is important to me in talking about now. Because what it does is it talks about the fact that I am now, but I will also be. Now, this kid right here, you should have known there was going to be a cute kid picture in this speech. Come on now. Come on now. This kid had no idea about anything that I am doing right now. He did not imagine this. He did not dream of this. He did not envision this. This kid right here was special. Oh my goodness. This kid right here was a bundle of energy, mischief, curiosity, and rambunctiousness. He had a short attention span, was all over the place. I say he got lucky because he was tested instead of given medication and moved into advanced classes around here, AG classes, magnet, gifted, and talented. Otherwise, he could have been given a whole other solution for being the kid who always finished his work fast and talked to everyone around him. But this kid liked to read Agatha Christie, and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and L. Ron Hubbard. Mission Earth, not Dianetics. Don't do that. I was not that strange of a kid. Not 10 years old, down in Scientology. Don't do that. This kid had an overactive imagination. And beautifully enough, my mother and my family, my mother's the oldest of her siblings, and she had me when she was 16. They did not understand me enough to let me be. Which means they did not stop me from imagining it. They were like, he's occupied, we don't know what he's doing over there. This kid made his own toys. This kid made up games and played by himself. Like, this kid got lost in his head. He didn't know what that was going to mean for the future. All right? They never expected that it would turn out like it did. But what happened is that he found a community. A community is so important, y'all. Here's what happened in that community. He was given opportunity. There were folks who saw his potential, saw his talent, saw his passion, saw his desire to learn more, and said, let's feed that. Let's give him things to do. Let's offer him things. And I was, I had my Jim Carrey moment where I just said yes to things. I figured it out along the way, but I said yes. I took the opportunity and jumped in. And there's a thing that I believe. I believe that you try to leave every experience with both a memory and a memento, right? You want to leave with an eye, something that reminds you of the experience, but also something that you took away from it and gained, right? When I was younger, it was how I maneuvered through the world trying to make my way. I would work a job. When I got done with what I was doing, because same thing as a kid, I got done before everybody else. I'd ask, what else can I do? And then next thing you know, I'm applying for another job to say I know how to do the things that really wasn't in my job description, but y'all let me figure out how to do. And then I got another job with more money. That's how I got it. Right? Because I love every experience. I'm going to leave with a memory and a memento. Here's the thing about that. What I learned is that if I'm present, then everything that's going on in that moment and everything that is shaping me right then is preparing me for what's next. And I don't have to worry about what's next because my now will help make sure that I'm equipped for my next. And if my next shift is because my now shifted it, and whatever it shifted it to is going to be okay. Right? I am, so I will be. Right? Now, one of the things about that is this clock that oh my God, we get so caught up in this clock. Right? It's 9 to 5 hours in the day, it's only so much time. We can't waste any time. There's this ticking clock that we love to fall in love with, and it gives us a scarcity mindset, y'all. Right? We're always worrying about it running out. And so we're always thinking ahead to try to be concerned about when the time is gone. We never leave ourselves enough time to enjoy the time while we have it. If we know it's going to go away, then why not spend our energy embracing it while we have it? See, here's the thing. We understand time, but the burden of inevitability will rob you of the chance to really, really dig into the possible. The burden of the inevitable will rob you of the opportunity to really, really dig into and enjoy the possible. Because what's possible is in the now, not in the next. Right? That's an illusion. That's an excuse. It robs us of us having to be present, because present is joyous, it's beautiful, it's amazing. There's so much there, so much that we take for granted that we don't give enough time to. But it also comes with responsibility, and it also comes with the choice to be accountable. When you know better, you got to do better. If we can think about it and push it off, it means that we don't have to do that. But we keep pushing it off, and it becomes distant and away from us. So, there's this activity that I also do with my students. And it is called 60 Minutes to Live. So here's the activity. I say that you wake up, you look over to the pillow next to you, and you see that there's a sticky note on the pillow. Now already that seems strange because you're wondering, why is there a sticky note on my pillow? If there's supposed to be somebody lying next to you, it's even stranger. The sticky note says, check your voicemail. You check your voicemail, and there's an ominous voice on the voicemail that says, you have 60 minutes to live. When this voicemail stops, you hear a beeping coming from inside of you. When the beeping speeds up, you're running out of time, and it stops, so do you. The only way to stop this is if you can find the meaning of life. Sit with that for a moment. And you can imagine that exhale, that collective exhale, is exactly what happens when I say, all right now, go. Tell me what happens next. And I'll let folks go, write, talk, discuss. It is one of the most beautiful things I have ever seen. All of this reconciling, doesn't matter what age, all this reconciling of broken relationships with whoever matters to you, and religion and faith and beauty and looking at the world. Some people rob banks and do all kinds of things. But one of the things is 98% of the people who participate in this activity ultimately come to terms with the fact that it will all end soon. And I've had moments where folks are crying at the moment we get done with this, and I have to be the workshop facilitator who goes, so, here's the thing, beautiful, oh my God, y'all have moved me to tears, but here's the thing about this. I gave you these parameters and then said, tell me what happens next. I handed it over to you, and all y'all did was live in the literal and prepare for the inevitable. Nobody actually took control. Not one. 98% of the people never actually take control. They don't change the circumstances. They don't do anything. It could have been anything. Your little brother could have jumped out the closet like, I got you. There's no limit to what could happen. But it all starts with believing that you have the power to change the narrative. That's what I mean about the now. The now says, I have power over this moment. And if I have power over this moment, then I have a hand in shaping my tomorrow. Right? Here's the thing. We work for these organizations and we talk about vision and mission, right? Our vision is what we want to achieve and what it looks like when we get there. Our mission, the steps that we're going to take, is a part of our purpose. We always talk about being mission aligned, right? Being mission aligned is about the now, right? It is about the now. If you're in the now and you are mission aligned and you are doing the work that will take you in the direction that you want to go, right? And if you do that well enough, you will achieve that vision. If it shows you new things, then you change your vision, you continue in your mission. I am, so I will be. Right? So, this is a beautiful thing. This is Sankofa bird. One of the things that blew me away about the idea of the Sankofa bird is that it is this idea that you can reach back to the past to grab the things that may get left behind. But it is about a bird standing and moving forward. What it does is it reinforces this idea of this continuum, that the things in your past are important for shaping your future. Don't forget your past, don't lose track of your past, you don't want to repeat it. And one of the beautiful things about this Sankofa that stuck out to me, remember, I think a little different, is about how it reinforces the now. See, here's the thing. Your past is a foundational understanding. Your future is an idea, is a theory. Now is your practical application. It is built on your past. It is about understanding what will be your future. Your now is where everything that matters rests. If you're in it and you embrace it, and you celebrate it, and you allow yourself it, and you tell yourself that you deserve it, then it will continue to define your future. And that was the thing that was powerful for me. So, in thinking about all this, there's 3 days before the sun cursed God, a lightning bug made love to a hurricane beneath a rose bush. They say the devil pulled a hole in the star. 9 months later, that bug gave birth to a tempest. With an anomaly-crowned king of ongoing despair, Mother Nature wet-nursed it prophecy and a celebration. Thunder snuck into a waterfall and stole the courage out of a larynx hidden by ruby-faced cherubim. And I haven't cried over my own pain since. See, there's an antidote for every falter, a million ways to pretend you're not broken, a metaphor for every aberration. It's an eloquent show, like your heart hanging for your bow battery of a voice box, tongue branch, hollow inside, your courage, understanding, and purpose, black and blue picnic for the white noise of your insecurities to laugh and gawk at, like you thought she was welcome here. I have been begging to fall apart for some time now. The devil's in the duct tape, damn strong that it is. I have hated purpose for the grain that it wants to do when I want my inks to be so black and white, for sticking to the point that there is always more work to do. Heaven realized I learned the secret is super glue. Nail polish removal at midnight had me in the arms of indulgence until it scratched me back free from this aptness of a burden, so I was given adhesive instead of wings and a pin instead of a halo. See, this is the riddle of a poet trying to make his way, understanding that he's searching for a gypsy who can teach me transition, who can show me the answer in the midst of 2 onyx stones and pearls, and a redwood treasure chest full of opportunity. This is the chapter and verse of a man's staff to lead, a Moses running errands for a group of people who would never understand the seas he had to split to get here, trying to make his way through the wilderness to escape the golden they have made my image without any understanding of how to make promise tangible. I tried to give this world the gift of a gracious understanding, expecting a reward of reciprocity, and all I've gotten is a reputation for being a glorious tourist attraction. He said it in these poems, you will find a poet's artifacts of brokenness. I say inside of this, you're going to find revelations, hidden meanings, and clues. There are cries for help and affirmations, I'm going to be okay. There are mirrors and flamethrowers. There are coloring books and unfinished suicide notes. There are Dear John letters to the pain I've known too long, and birthday cards for the pain I'll know too soon. There are promises unkept, endings unwritten, and doors dead bolted shut. But y'all, there is also joy. There is joy there, y'all. There is joy. There is the simple but complex amalgamation of the beautiful that God made me. There's a recognition that every night is an affirmation, and every morning is an opportunity, that every day still breathing is a testimony. It is a reverie of resilience that we are all deserving of. And see, that is the story I'm committed to telling. See, the thing about this is that We should never overlook the now. Because our joy, our happiness, our understandings, our discoveries are in the now. I am process-oriented because I know that dreams are not motivation, they're a destination. And if we order our steps toward them, that either we will achieve those dreams or we will discover a new one. The now is the moment where everything happens, right? Trust ourselves. Our past is there. And we are more than capable of achieving our future. And if we aren't capable of achieving our future yet, if we rest in the now, we will equip ourselves to be capable of whatever comes next. I am, so I will be. And that is what I want you to take away from the day. Remind yourself, I am, so I will be. What I will be then will be what I am. Yesterday is another thing. This is now. Tomorrow will soon be my now. So if I rest in my now, I will prepare myself for my next now. I am, so I will be. Thank y'all. Thank y'all so much. So feel free, you can follow me, add me, reach out to me. You know, I appreciate y'all so much for being able to be here with you this morning. I think now we can. Yes.
Let's give it up. All right, so now is kind of the best part. We get the Q&A with Dasan. We got our first one. So you can just stand up and project. Let's start.
Okay, so I don't like shoes a lot, right? So like you said mementos, right? I'm curious if ever your mementos look like your shoes, and if so, which ones?
Good question. That's a really good question because so I do have to think about shoes. Partly because my mom's 5'4". I passed her in middle school. I've been tall. I've been the tallest person in the room. I'm light skinned. Like this thing about sticking out, which was very hard for me. I'm a very private and shy person who chose to live a very public life. I don't understand. But trying to figure out how to clothe myself was difficult because of size. I could control shoes. And it became part of an expression. One two things that you'll always see is you'll see socks and shoes and you'll see a backpack. Those are the things that I can always have control over, and those will be to see who I truly am. Doesn't matter how I have to dress up for an occasion, what you're going to see is you're going to always see me with me, and that is in my socks and shoes, and I'm going to show it a backpack. And I don't care what it looks like. My backpack currently is a Mickey Mouse backpack. I don't care. I love it, but it makes sense. But to answer your question, very much so. Because of the way my mind works, the way the things that I see in a moment and the takeaway are very much like how I choose my shoes. Like the sneakers that I wear are sometimes popular and match what other people buy, but they may not be the same color. My socks are colorful, but they're also themed and patterned. So what I choose in those moments is very much how I choose what to take away from a moment. Just like I chose a Mickey Mouse backpack. My favorite color is blue, it's navy blue, but like, it's the idea of showing up with Mickey on my back. Like there's a thing there, right? So when I'm in a moment like this moment, like there are things that I want to walk out of here with that another person might not. Which is part of this I am, so I will be. Anything that I am taking and equipping myself with are distinct to who I am. It's not going to be what someone else takes from that moment. So if we all take what's for us from the moment, then we will continue to reinforce who we actually are.
I'm such a soft sneaker hat person, so I love that. And you explained it just the same way I feel about it, so that's cool. I wanted to make a really good note that what you did today was monumental for a lot of people because outside of how you presented it, it still presents to the wellness to better deal with PTSD of the past and anxiety of the future. And really be just in the present and find my peace. That's the only place that you can really find your peace. And at 32, I had like my first moment of feeling like an innocent child within, just on a Saturday afternoon and just letting the sun shine in and everyone's eating breakfast and oh my gosh, like don't think about anything but like this is a cool moment. We're just chilling. Like this is how do the kids feel right now? They don't have the stresses of thinking about all these things. They're really just enjoying their Saturday morning. And I felt it for the first time because someone taught me that. And I had to practice. This is a practice. You can't just think like that and then keep going. Like you have to practice it. So I appreciate it, and I appreciate how you said it because it reminds me, but it also is fresh. Like it's so fresh how you presented it. So thank you. That was it.
Thank you. No, that's so real. Yeah, yes, yeah. I feel like I was about to clap for something. But it's very real. So it's also part of my survival because I have an overactive mind. I can get lost. I can turn positive things into anxiety because of how much I pick it apart. I can also get stuck in a dark place and not be able to get out. Me being present, it's difficult. There's so many people in my life who just don't get it or don't understand it. It's confusing to them. They're like, and then there are other people who don't get it, but they just choose to accept it because they're used to it by now. But that is how I operate. I am present here. Because I can pick, if I'm going to pick something apart, I'm going to pick the now apart and find all the things I can take from it. That's way more exciting thing about learning about tomorrow, not letting it go before. And peace of mind is I remind myself over and over again, what matters most is my peace of mind. And so there are moments where I seem stoic. I'm not stoic, I'm completely paying attention, right? But I'm not about to be bothered. And there are moments where I choose to be oblivious. I have a complete understanding of what is going on, but I'm not engaging. Right? Because this is my now, and I am not getting backed up in your whatever, yesterday, tomorrow, what have you. And I always say, well, the beautiful thing about it is that if you are consistent, everyone else will adjust and you won't have to. Because they'll get used to that it is what it is, and that's not changing. And that I am, so I will be. So you can try tomorrow, so we can say every day in your life, this is how it's going to be. So you can change, I ain't. And that makes it work for me.
Got a question here? Yeah, thank you for doing this. The last time I heard you was a few years ago when you spoke about Ninth Wonder, and that was a very impactful thing. And I've been following you ever since, so it's good to hear it, continue for you and your evolution. But with that, when you're talking about defining your I am, it's a clear thing that when you speak, and I appreciate for what you're saying, for the sake of what you're saying, it has to make sense, like you define your I am and then you move on. So what about the folks that after you speak, come to you and say, I'm having trouble defining what my I am is. Those questions that you're asking, I don't have the clearly defined answers because maybe I'm evolving as a person. Where does that intersect with the evolution of yourself, defining that I am? And if somebody is mixed up at that time, what words do you have for you from your experience of helping them deal with that?
Great question. Part of it is recognizing that it is an uncomfortable journey. So that's the first thing. And it's so funny because we always talk about disruption and discomfort being a reminder that you're making the right decision and moving in the right way. But we seem to be able to embrace that conversation when we're talking about someone else or when things are further from us personally. But it still holds true. So the first thing is that it's an uncomfortable thing. And the reason why I say that is because it is a journey. So the questions are there. So it's like a math teacher who said, you got the answer, but where's the work? So it's still wrong. And we all got frustrated. Like, I don't want to write out all of it. I already figured out the answer. The answer is the answer. Like that's for me, part of this is separating myself from the answer. In recognizing that the work and the process towards an answer is where the value is. So, and that's the uncomfortable part, because if you don't have an answer to any one of those questions, you can worry about not having an answer, Or you can embrace that not having an answer. It means that there's room for you to enjoy a journey towards figuring out what the answer would be. I choose that because that's where all the fun, exploration, that's where the beautiful discomfort all comes in. That's where my curiosity gets fed. It gives me more room and more breath to be and exist in the world, to say that not having an answer means there's room for me to figure it out. It also says that I get to decide where is the possible solution, or answer, or possible next thing. Do I need to have more conversations with the people around me? Are there things that I've said that I have not made time, experiences I haven't made time for? Now I have a reason to, because there's a purpose to why I'm making time for them. Where if I don't have a purpose, then I do what we all do and say, I'll get to it later when I have more money. I don't have 3-4 days left to go anywhere. Like, we do these things where we rob ourselves of things. So that's my answer, and that's my response, is like, don't worry about questions, don't worry about the answers. You'll either have them, but also the thing I always say is the answers that you have now may not be the answers that you have a month later. So you're rooted in the answer. Have the questions. And having the questions mean that when you are experiencing life, you will have a gauge that says, this is useful to answer one of these questions, but I gotta have the questions. And so that's the thing. That will be my response. And that's what happened for me. I didn't start figuring things out until I had questions to answer. Right? I had a bunch of people around me trying to give me answers. I did what most folks do. They didn't fit, they didn't make sense, and I rebelled at all. Luckily enough, I didn't rebel so much that it like completely disrupted my life. I tried a couple of times. And I had some self-destructive tendencies. When I met people who gave me questions, was when I figured out how to navigate my life. Because you give me the questions and let me figure out how to get to the answers, then I'm equipping myself for whatever is next. And so ever since then, what I look for, that's the moment, like the memory or the memento. I walk into a situation with questions, and I let the experience help me find the answers. And that's difficult. We really just want to know what the answer is. But I value the questions more.
We have time for a couple more. Got a little white shirt up here. Okay, we got a microphone over here, and then you're next. Yeah, perfect. Go for it.
Hi, I'm a visual artist, and I was curious about maybe your journey into becoming an older artist. I think it's, when you're in the arts, the new shiny artists, they're exciting. They've got a fresh sort of vision of life and creativity sometimes. And as I'm moving into middle age, that's my journey, and the now for me is embracing that is a good thing, but I'm still figuring out. And so I'm just curious how you approach that, not that you're middle age by any stretch of the imagination. I'd be curious to hear about your journey in this season of life.
Yeah, so that's a great question as well. And one of the things is, and I'm also a pop culture person, and I teach hip hop and things like that. And this helps me give me a way to compare this. The new shiny thing happens, and there's a lot of things that are focused to emergence. But there's a thing about the way that things are presented to us, and the way things really are. And we can, in our society, how things are presented to us is what drives society in a lot of ways, but it's because it drives our decision making, and eventually there are things attached to it, particularly things that involve money. But the reality of things is that for all those of us who are older and creating, there are folks on the same journey. And when you think about all the things that we've experienced that influence our art, there are people who've gone through those same things. And so what I'm reminded by is whenever I'm out and I'm authentically sharing my art, is a number of conversations that I end up having from people who find themselves in the art. Which reminds me that I am consistently creating for a group of people who exist. And will be until I'm no longer here. And then your art gets a whole new life because people discover it. And it's usually younger folks who discover it, find where they're going in it, and hold it and lift it up, and then it gets a whole new journey. But while we're on the journey, we're creating for people who are going on the journey with us. And honestly, if we look at the numbers, there is a humongous number of those folks waiting and considering. And also, much like all of us in this room, we're continuing to find ourselves. So every question you're answering in your art that you're answering for yourself, someone else is trying to figure out the answer to the same question. And it might be in your art. Or either the inspiration to continue to keep seeking an answer is in your art. And so that's how it's been. The other thing is, and you know, doing the workshops means that I get to be in front of young people so that when I share my art, and there's always anxiety about, oh, young people, you know, just standing here. You know, but there's also a thing about they may not get all of it, but they get that there is something there, right? And that makes them curious. Because oftentimes they're way more curious than we are, and our curiosity is robbed of us as we move into adulthood. So they see a thing, and they want to know what's the thing in that I see. Tell me that, because I know it's going to mean something later. And it's just up to us to be present enough in our art to be able to then hear that question and answer it, but also recognize that if it's there, there's someone else like me who needs that. And so the art is now, it's tomorrow, and it's behind us.
So you always are a shiny new thing.
With all these grades, yeah, I'm shiny.
It don't matter. You're always a shiny new thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have time for another question?
Well, hope that, so this hand has been raised for my family, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't actually, I'm going to stay seated because standing up is not my favorite. So I am in no way like pinning your curiosity or like you're being all over the place when you were younger to ADHD, but I resonated with it because I have a lot of ADHD that has gone unmanaged for a long time, and I've chosen recently to start managing it instead of medicating it, and I like have the exact same past in terms of like being all over the place and starting something and maybe starting something else immediately after. And now I'm in a place in my life where I know that at least the question I'm asking myself is what's the next right step for me? But because of the ADHD, because there's so much that I want to do, and also luckily and fortunately, there are opportunities that I can take and that I can seek out as well. I kind of freeze up instead of just diving into one thing. And I don't know if I'm asking myself the wrong question or if you have ever experienced something like that where you don't know what is the right next step, or if you rely too much on your feelings, or if that makes sense, like how do you pick one thing and go with that? And I know that currently, like the way that you work, you don't just pick one thing, like you do a lot of different things. And I feel that's the way I am. I just feel like I can't start being that way until I start one thing and then add on to it. So I'm just curious about your experience with that and maybe how you dealt with overwhelm and just choosing the next step.
The last thing you said is the key. So I have this conversation with other folks who like me often about trying to not get caught going east and west, but try to continue to go north and south. We try to go north and south, look south, go north, and not go east and west. Because east and west looks like activity, but you're not moving. And we can get caught up in that because we want to be active, we want to feel like we're contributing, we want to feel like we're doing something useful and purposeful and productive. But this doesn't take us anywhere. The thing about it is that I do a lot of things, but the thing is that it's all tied together. I go in a direction, knowing that when this is too hard or too difficult and I need a break, the other things are there. I don't set them aside, I bring them with me. This is the direction for now. And ultimately, I will either finish this or get to a point where I need to move in a different direction. And these other things that I have interest in, believe in, love, pay attention to, are there for me to shift and pivot in another direction. And I carry the other things with me too. I love poetry to death, but I'm not the everyday write poems person. Some days I want to do something else. Having those other things means that my sanity is maintained, because there are days when this poetry is beautiful and there's days when it's very difficult. I put that down on a right play. Or I go work on a song. Or I go to a art gallery and imagine visual art. And it roots me back Also, one of the things about this is that if you do what I'm saying, and you leave with a memory and a memento, you're also giving yourself more tools, which means your brain says, more things I can do. What I tell myself is don't do more things, right? Keep embracing the things that I do, and the opportunity to use the things that I'm learning will bring themselves. So each one of the things will provide you an opportunity to feed these other things you carry with you. Or eventually what you'll do is you'll manifest opportunities to use multiple things at once. So I just carry it all. I show up wholly and authentically, and I hopefully and I see in this, I have this opportunity. How many of these things happen? 3? Cool. 1? Cool. 5? Great. Right? Because there's 10 here. There's 10 here. I haven't gotten anywhere where let me use all 10, but I'm going to keep going until one day I'm going to be able to use all 10. Or I've learned enough that eventually I'll create the space for all 10 to exist.